So we'll make a start. If my colleagues could kindly welcome anybody else in that's in the lobby as we go along. So welcome everyone to episode 5 of Ticket Training Tuesdays. This one's going to be about knowledge and deflection. So a very exciting one. Um, just in case you're not aware of what Ticket Training Tuesday is, this is a nice little summary. It's our weekly informative and fun training sessions for all ticket customers. So it covers an array of different topics. All right, so our agenda for this session, we're going to say a welcome. I'll introduce myself. We're going to do some housekeeping. So we just want to make sure that everybody knows where all the links to the different tools are and make sure you're well equipped to be as successful as possible. And the third thing we're going to touch on is a recap of this episode of season 1. Knowledge and Deflection was actually the very first episode of Training Tuesdays. So we're just going to refresh our memory on that because we won't go too in depth on what's been covered already. The fourth thing we're going to consider are the new knowledge and deflection features. And for the fifth, we'll have a demo of that, and then questions are welcome at the end. They're welcome at any point, but at the end, we'll buy out some time for it, especially. Okay, so the welcome. Hello, my name is James. I'm part of the customer success team as well. If you can't tell already from my voice, I'm based in the UK, and it's a very exciting time at present. I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary of being at Saracen, and it's been a blast just being able to see and even be a part of the big wins and small victories for our customers. So whether that's helping someone design a custom form or um, making sure that the right notifications are being sent out, we love it all. So it's really good to see everybody tailoring Tikit to how they want it to be. So that's me and what I enjoy. Let's go to the housekeeping section. Okay, so I actually have a list of all of these links ready to go. So I'm going to copy those and throw them in the chat. All right, so I've just sent them through. Okay, so I'll give a description of all things housekeeping. So first of all, interaction during this session. Feel free to raise your hand or call out whenever. And of course, again, there's going to be a time at the end for you to raise anything that you'd like. The schedule of previous sessions and ones that are upcoming is available on the Ticket Training Tuesday article on our knowledge base. So feel free to check that out as well. There's also recordings of previous sessions, and they're all linked there in a table. So feel free to check those out as well. Feedback is always welcomed. So feel free to provide that either via email or via the new help portal. And if you're unaware of these tools that are listed here, it'd be really good to get yourself acquainted with them. Of course, we've got the knowledge base and the community. The community is a really good one, especially because you can throw out ideas amongst different customers, amongst experts, amongst members of our product team, our customer success team, just ways that we can put our brains together and really understand the hows on how to implement things. All right, so that's the housekeeping. Now let's look at the recap of the episode last season on knowledge and deflection. Now, Jeff covered this one and he did a really, really nice job. And his focus there was, why is knowledge and deflection important? So I won't go into it too much depth, but to summarize it, the keys were speed, efficiency, and accuracy. So if you want to see a bit more of that, feel free to check out that episode. I will throw a link to that in the chat as well. Okay, there it goes. Okay, and we've got four things that were covered in that session as well, so we won't delve too deep into them now. The first was deflection, um, and Jeff touched on how Tikit works in tracking which tickets are deflected versus created. The second was phrases. I know a lot of people have questions about how much detail they need to put into their phrases, whether they need to be full sentences or they can just be keywords. So that was cleared up in the first episode. The synonyms. Are you using synonyms? We don't see them used very often, but they're really useful. And that first episode breaks down how they work and how you can set them up to achieve what you want them to. The fourth was multi-response. That was a new addition to Tikit at the time. And Jeff really covered what it looks like in practice. He gave a nice example of it during his demo. So do check that out if you're interested in that. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the here and now. So new knowledge and deflection features. So I've got a snippet of the old knowledge page. This was part of the first episode. So back in last June time. And now we can see the new version in the bottom left. That's what it looks like currently. So you can see there's a few more columns to choose from. It's a lot more detailed now. And those features include the chat studio, which is a lab that you can use to test out how your knowledge base is working, how the phrases are being triggered, whether you need to amend any of the settings. You can do that separate from what the end users see and what they're exposed to. So we'll have a look at that deeper later on. There's now an agent-only option for the knowledge base articles. So you can specify that a knowledge article can only be prompted towards those who have the agent permissions. So we'll see how that's useful later on as well. And now we have the created by, modified by, and last modified date columns, which are super useful just to know if anything's now going unexpected with your knowledge base item. Now you know when it might have gone wrong and who to check with in terms of what changes were made to it. And then statuses. It used to be just one status is active, but now there is draft, in review, and active as well. So we'll touch on that later on too. And now you can actually get links to these knowledge articles. So I'll show you an example of that too. And then we won't expand on this one too much because it was actually a part of the resolution note Tikit Training Tuesday episode. I believe it was 2 episodes ago, episode 3. But I have a link to that too. Let me copy that and put it in the chat. Hopefully you can use that. All right, so now after you've resolved a ticket and you add the resolution note to it, there's actually a button that you can click to add it as a draft knowledge item. So it really helps you to keep your knowledge base up to date. So you know that can be a challenge to do. All right, so now let's see these features in action. I will stop the share. Okay, let's stop presenting. And let's get our screen. Admin. Okay. All right, lovely. So if we could get a thumbs up if you can see my knowledge page at the minute, just want to make sure. Thank you very much. Much appreciated, guys. Thank you. So let's take a dive in. So we'll start off with the statuses. Um, so you can see those here, status. So as we spoke about, we've got draft, in review, and active. So you can think of these like with the draft, it can be something that's a work in progress. Um, with the in review, it might be a knowledge item that's it's been completed by a knowledge agent, but it still needs to be checked. Maybe you have a system where your line manager checks over each knowledge item before it goes live, or you have a group of knowledge agents that make sure they check off things just to make sure that it's fit for purpose. And then active, that's what the end users and everybody else will see in their Tikit virtual agent. So we have an example of how this could be used here. So this article that I have is in the draft state. So let's say I'm a knowledge agent and I've noticed something. I've started to add a knowledge item for it because it's quite a recurring theme amongst our end users' tickets. But I've seen that the end users are having trouble on knowing how to map network drives, and the team has resolved to create a video or an article that shows people how to map that network drive. But it's not ready at the time that I'm creating the knowledge item. So I've just chucked it in draft. Then as soon as that link is ready to go, as soon as the video has been made or the article, I can come back and paste it in here and then move it to in review or active, whatever I'd like. So it really helps you to um, take things at your own pace, review things, and make sure that things are at the top standard. Um, and yeah, you can just keep them there and use them at a later date. So that's super, super helpful. Okay, so next we'll talk about these created by, modified by, and last modified columns. So why is this particularly helpful? Why has this been added? Well, I've noticed a few requests that come in from customers that say, "Oh, my this particular knowledge item, it was working fine yesterday. Users were entering their usual prompts and it was getting fed back to them, but today it's just not being prompted. No matter what we type, the Tikit virtual agent just isn't sending it to them." So when that happens, now if it was yesterday that things changed, you can go back and double check that. You can see when it was last modified, and you can actually see who modified it. So you might ping them a message and say, "Oh, were any changes made?" And then you can put things right that way. So it really helps you to trace back your steps and make sure that you're on top of any changes that are made to any particular knowledge items. So third, we'll talk about the new agent only option. And we have an example of that here. So here is referring to agent permissions. To say I've just joined the company, I'm a new agent, but when I try to access the web portal and view all of the tickets, I'm just getting unauthorized access, or I'm getting taken to the requester portal. That's something that's exclusive to agents, isn't it? End users wouldn't see that. So it'd be good to keep that away from end users so it doesn't clutter things. And you can specify that at the bottom left here, as you can see, agent only. So yeah, once again, this is presented to all agents, but just not no end users. Okay. Get link. This is a fun one. So when you go to the three dots next to any knowledge base item, let's go here, you get the get link option here. I'll just show you what that looks like at the top, and it will paste the URL. So when would you need to use that? Well, let's say you have an end user that primarily uses Outlook and the internet. They're not in Teams very often, and they message you or drop you an email and say, oh, they want to offboard somebody. Now, rather than having to walk them through the steps of going to DVA in that moment, you can just send them a link, send them this link, and then that will take them to the form in their browser, just like this. And then once they fill that out and submit it, a ticket will be created for them. So yeah, it is super helpful and keeps things super flexible for your end users, no matter what experience they prefer. But it's a good thing to note that these links only work for people that are within your tenant. So if you send it out to an external user, they're not a part of your tenant, so the link won't work for them. Okay, great. So the chat studio, our lab, let's take a look at that. So here you can just see how your settings are working, how your current setup is going. So you might have had your knowledge base set up for quite a while, and then you've noticed some inaccuracies or some things that are quite annoying, but you're just ignoring them and getting on with it because you don't want to ruffle any feathers or mess things up. And that's exactly what the chat studio is for. You can just hop in there and get things exactly the way you want them without affecting your settings. As you can see here, it has no impact on the settings in the bot configuration. I'll actually show you that. These will remain the same. So you see here, I've got it to 55% ticket deflection score threshold. If I go back, I can change that to whatever, and it won't affect that. So it's a lot lower risk. But once you get it to the way you want it, you want to make sure that you go to your settings and make it reflect that if that's what you're looking for. So what could playing around with this look like? So let's say I want to see how my offboarding form will work. And actually, before I go into that example, I'll just walk you through these here. So these checkboxes, they're pretty self-explanatory, but they allow you to tailor what is available in your lab. So if you want to include the drafted and review articles, you can do. If you want to include or exclude the agent-only articles, you can control that too. OpenAI results, and then your ticket deflection score can be shown as well. So I'll show you what that looks like. So let's say here I want to see my offboarding form, and I've got ticket deflection score checked. As you can see here, it's presented. So this prompt causes the bot to feel 73% confident that this is what the customer, the end user, is looking for. So you can really keep track of that and get linear. So in this situation, I don't want this bold italic to be presented to somebody who's looking for an offboarding form. All right. So I would look at this deflection score and say, okay, I need to get my ticket deflection score threshold to above 40 to exclude that going forward. Okay. So I will raise that up. Let's say I put it to 42 to get it just above that. Now let's try that again. Offboarding. Ooh, if I could spell that would help. Offboarding form. Now it's just the one. And then just to show you that it will translate over. Offboarding form. I'm in TVA now. Let's hit that. I hope it's not in draft. Okay, yeah, here it goes. So we can see that there. All right. So super, super, super useful. You can get you can really experiment and go crazy with it in there. So if that's what I want that 42%. I need to remember to go back to settings, uh, bot configuration, and then I might change that to 42. I mean, 55, I'd be safe anyway, but just for example purposes, I would hit save there. Okay. Alrighty. So let's go back to knowledge and our chat studio. Was that covered? I believe so. So yeah, that can really show you how good your prompts are designed. You can go back into your knowledge and tailor them, maybe add some more description if need be, if you're getting some confusion, and you can really get it the way you want it to. All right, so we'll touch on this last point about the resolution note option to add a draft knowledge item from the resolution note that you've left on a ticket. Again, Patrick touched on this in his episode of the Ticket Training Tuesday. So if you'd like to see a more elaborate, a more expanded version of a demo of that, feel free to check that out. So let's take a look at this example. So here, this was the resolution that I left on a particular ticket, and all the details are included here. So why is that useful? Well, as we touched on before, it can be a challenge to keep your knowledge base up to date as you go. I've even had it myself to where I've resolved an issue that I may not have seen before. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I'll add that to the knowledge base. That would be good for the team to see. But then something else pops up and I get completely distracted. Next thing you know, days and weeks go by and I have no idea what that ticket was, and it's just gone from my memory. But here, as soon as I've resolved that ticket, I can add it to the KB as a draft, and that can remind me, okay, when someone had their desk phone, when someone reported that their desk phone wasn't working, a simple restart got them sorted. So I can add a KB item around that to let people know in the future to restart before going on to more elaborate troubleshooting techniques. So yeah, it can really help you in that way too. Alrighty then. That is all I have for the demo. Let me stop my share and then let me share our colorful PowerPoint again. It's loading. So yeah, the next part is questions, by the way. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or call out. Okay. All right. Number 9. Okay, so I guess we have no questions at the minute, but if you do have any after this call, you can drop them at help. You can drop them via email at help@sison.com, and you can also use the links in the chat to see how else you can get in contact with us. Patrick's got his arm raised. Oh, appreciate that, Jake. Thank you. Love that feedback. Thank you.
Oh no, that was an accident there, Jim.
Okay. No worries, Patrick. Good to hear your voice. Cool. Alrighty then. Thank you, everybody, and thanks again for the feedback, Jake. Have a lovely day, all, and we'll catch you next time. See you later.